Alright guys, welcome back to a new YouTube video today. So, my big thing, right, is the biggest question I get asked is how do I grow my arms? That is the biggest question, especially triceps, because I train my triceps like a madman, if I'm being 100% honest. Because I'll be real with you, you want big arms, it's not about the biceps as much as everyone tells you, oh, the biceps. Yes, it is what gets that little to it. Don't get me wrong, biceps are important, but let's be real with you. If you really want big arms, you gotta be hitting your triceps. They make up 2/3 of your arm realistically. So if you're not hitting them, you're not doing justice to your arms. You're really not. And that's the big thing about it. Everyone's like, oh, don't get me wrong, the bicep is the flashy piece of your arm. Don't get me wrong. When you flex your arm, yeah, you can see the bicep popping. No one's flexing the triceps. Let's be 100% honest. But the meat and potatoes of your freaking arm is the triceps. And that's the big thing about it. Everyone's like, oh, my triceps are I'll do some tricep push downs at the end of my workout and they'll grow. You know what I mean? That's how people kind of treat them. And that's not the reality when it comes down to actually wanting to get big arms. There is no shortcut. And everyone's like, oh, I kind of just do high volume, kind of just a few sets. Realistically, you need to be training them just as hard as any other muscle group. You need to be overloading them. Everyone's like, oh, I don't want to put too much tension on my elbows. Yes, you got to make sure your elbows are healthy, but you need to be training in all rep ranges so you're actually overloading the muscle. Because let's just say, when you go on the bench press, you're not just trying to do casual pump work. Don't get me wrong, you can do higher volume and stuff like that, but you also need to be having sets where you are pushing that muscle where it needs to grow. Muscles just don't grow for no reason. They need to be hey, I need to be stronger. So you have to give it a stimulus for it to grow. And that's the thing about it. They're like, oh, especially people don't realize how strong your triceps really are. Your triceps are actually, they can take a lot of a beating. Versus your biceps, on the other hand, it's a little bit of a weaker muscle and like that. When it comes down to triceps, though, they can take a beating and a half. And everyone's like, oh, my biceps are don't know, bicep tears are huge. And that's the big thing about it. Everyone's like, yeah, but triceps, when it comes down to, that is your main secondary pushing muscle. That is what literally helps you halfway up on a bench press. Everyone's like, oh, I want to grow my bench. I want to grow my bench. But I'm like, you don't actually train your triceps. That's half your bench, if I'm being real with you. If you want to be hitting impressive numbers on the bench press, you need to be doing tricep work, especially isolation work when it comes down to it. And everyone's like, oh, I don't end up hitting my triceps that much. And it's just but they'll go spam curls. And that's the big thing about it. And don't get me wrong, I think it's important to hit your biceps, but you also need to be hitting those triceps. There is no way around it. There is no cheat code. And everyone's like, oh, it's just or it's oh, they're like, oh, I hit my push day, my triceps got worked enough. And I truly am a big believer, if you want your arms to grow, you need to have a separate arm day. You can't just be in push-pull legs, you can't be doing that. If you are going to do push-pull legs, I really do recommend doing push-pull legs, arms, rest, and repeat. Because if you want the most out of your arm gains, you need to be at least hitting them about 2 to 3 times a week. I find that they can, realistically, they're a small muscle. It takes a lot, it's pretty quick to recover from them. Everyone's like, oh, I can't be doing this, I can't. No, you need to be taking care of, realistically, it's also volume over time. If you're consistently hitting a lot of volume on your arms, you are going to grow. But you don't want it to be complete, you don't want it junk volume. You want that to be volume that you're actually pushing yourself. Because I see many people in the gym and they go and they do a set, and it's there's not much intensity to it. It's, why would the muscle want to grow if there is no intensity? You're not pushing yourself that hard. I am a huge believer when it comes down to things. If you want something to grow, you need to be pushing yourself to at close to failure or at least failure. You know what I mean? That's the big thing about it. Everyone's like, oh, I'm too scared of the fatigue. Yes, fatigue is a thing, but if you're never ever hitting failure, on any of your sets, why would the muscle want to? It's comfortable. It's able to do that. It will stay the same size. And that's the big thing about it. It's like, oh, I don't want to like exhaust myself, or like, I don't want to like fry my CNS. It is important to take care of your CNS. Yes, it is. But it's also at the same time, if you're never actually ever hammering it to the point where it's like, hey, my body needs to get stronger, your muscle will stay the same size. And that's the big thing about it. And it's like, oh, why is my arms, not growing? That's why. It is as simple as that. And for me, like, I found adding more volume and hitting them more consistently grew my arms, if I'm being honest with you. It really, really did. Because I'll be real with you guys, I had 16.5-inch arms. And I was, I'm like, why won't they grow? So for the last 4 years, I have spammed them like a madman. Like, I'll be real, I train arms about 3 to 4 times a week. And I'm not saying doing full arm days, but I'm at least getting 1 exercise or 2 in every session, because it is a priority to me. Because I do want bigger arms. And in those 4 years of training them like that, I've been able to go from 16.5-inch arms to 21.5. And I think the biggest indicator was I started taking my tricep training seriously. And that's the big thing about it. Especially, especially if you're isolating your long head. Don't get me wrong, hitting your tricep at every angle is important. You're not just gonna do one exercise for triceps and be like bada boom, bada bang. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think the big movements that you want to be overloading is some kind of JM press, some kind of close grip bench, or some kind of dip, something that you can put a lot of weight on and actually overload the triceps. I think that's super important, because you need to be actually able to overload it. You're not going to be able to overload it on a tricep push down. Let's be honest. And at a certain point, you're going to max out that stack, and there is going to be no going back. You're like, what am I supposed to do? Do 40 reps? You can add a gym pin and stuff like that, but at a certain point, there are better exercises to overload. And that's the big thing about it. So for me, my favorite movements for building my triceps, at least what I've seen the best results with, has been always an overhead tricep extension. I love if you want a deep stretch of it, I also go heavy on these, because at the end of the day, I bang these out, because these are something for me that I've seen the most amount of results. It puts a great stretch on the long head, especially on the way down. And like, that's the big thing about it. Everyone's like, oh, I'm like, it's either easy bar or cables. I find dumbbells, for me, I just don't get as good of an isolation. My mind muscle connection isn't so great. So find something that you can do any kind of overhead extension, but you need to be doing those, not just be like, hey, I'm going to do like high volume. And also, I found people always try to do them upright, do it slightly back, so about like 75 degrees. I find that gets it takes it off your shoulders, so you're not going to impinge your shoulders. It also takes the tension off your elbows. Of course, you're going to get a little bit of tension on your elbows, but it is also going to take it off, so it's like, hey, I can actually hammer out these sets and like that without agitating my elbows. Because I feel like a lot of people, that movement is really hard on their elbows. For me, the one movement for me is I've always found like skull crushers a bit iffy. Dumbbell skull crushers, I honestly, my forearms start to feel it a bit more than the actual movement, if I'm being real with you guys. So I definitely do like doing skull crushers, but I like doing with a dead stop. So let's just say there's a box behind me, or like, let's just say there's like, a platform or something like that. So I have to stop. I found that there was easier on my elbows. It allows me to overload really well. And that was one of my real basic movements. You're doing a skull crusher and an overhead tricep extension. And of course, you gotta do something like a dip or a close grip press or a JM press. If you guys are gonna do JM presses, another thing that you can be doing is start doing them on an incline. Yes, the lockout is harder, but if you wanna build out your lockout strength on your bench press, why not? And like, that's the big thing about it. It's also puts a little bit more of a stretch on it, so it's going to put a little bit more tension on the long head versus, a regular JM press is just more medial and lateral. part of the tricep. So like that's the thing when it comes down to it. If you are wanting to actually grow your triceps, emphasize the long head. I also found for me, one of the greater movements for me to build my arms is doing like a crossbody single arm, like cuffed tricep extension. It's basically like, instead of like having it tucked in, you are coming across your body, which honestly for me, I get a great isolation. I can also overload it a lot, especially with the cuff and like that. I find it is a great movement, especially if you do want to grow your triceps. Like there is no going around it. Like also, find movements you like. Of course, like, I always find like, doing like a tricep push down, right? It's good, but if I have a back support behind me, I'm able to actually get a little bit of a better mind muscle connection with the triceps. So find movements that you do enjoy. I find that like everyone's like, oh, you can't use rope, you can't use rope. But let's just say you're having elbow problems. Rope is so much better on your elbows, especially if you are having elbow problems. So don't just be like, hey, I can't do this because it's not going to be as good. I find like also like another great one, if you want to emphasize the long head a little bit more, get two ropes together and like come back almost like you're doing a kickback at the end. That will put a great emphasis on your long head and you will get those triceps popping. And like everyone's like, oh, that's too much work. I don't want to be a dick and like take up like two, ropes. But if your gym is empty, use two of them. You'll get a better stretch. You get a better freaking contraction on top of that too. So it's like you're winning. This is gonna be so much more better for you. So why not? And like that's the big thing about it. Everyone's like, oh, I can't do this. I can't do this. You need to be training your triceps consistently. There is no going around it. There is no be like, hey, I can't do this because blah, blah, blah. Or it's like, also, if you want something to grow, you should probably put it first. Let's just say it's an arm day. Start with your triceps. Start with them. Like, that's the big thing about it because you have the most amount of energy and you can probably get the most out of those sets because you're fresh. I'm not saying you can't get, if you save them for the end. There's nothing wrong, especially on my chest days or something like that. Even on my back days, sometimes I throw triceps in. There's nothing wrong with it. You can get it good. But if you want that muscle to grow, it's usually good to start with it. And that's the big thing about it. Everyone's like, oh, I can't, I can't be starting with triceps. If you want something to grow, do it first. And that's the big thing about it. I found for me, the sweet spot for doing triceps is doing all ranges of volume. Not just doing high reps, not just doing moderate, but also doing low reps. Of course, I never go down like below 6 unless it's like, let's just say it's a close grip bench or something like that. But I found for me, training at all types of ranges is actually good because you could build muscle from 5 reps to 30 reps. And that's the big thing about it. People are like, oh, I can't, I could never train like 20 rep range. Do you realize it's also good to be training in different rep ranges? It allows you to actually be like actually exhausting the muscle to its fullest. And like everyone's like, oh, it's like junk volume. It's not junk volume if you are hitting failure. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you need to do all your sets like that, but like there are some, let's just say I'm doing like overhead tricep extensions. There may be some sets I'm doing 8 to 10 reps, and then there's some that I'm banging out close to 20 to 25. So it's like you're kind of learning of like, it's good to be training in every rep range. And that's the big thing about it. So biggest pointers I can give to you guys is make sure that you're doing these controlled too. Like don't be like trying to like bang the weights out. I see so many people like just trying to push the weight down on it. Let's just say a tricep push down and they're just like trying to get the weight down. Try to get the most out of your movements. Do them slow and controlled. The muscle, it's time under tension too. If you can keep the tension throughout the whole entire set versus like you're taking breaks on it, you will grow more because the muscle has to work a lot harder. It is a great way to actually grow. And it's as simple as that. Hopefully this guys gives you a little bit of pointers, at least a little bit of a guidance on what I kind of like my approach with triceps. You guys may be like, hey, this is the stupidest thing possible. But this is what I do for my triceps. This is what I've seen results with my triceps. So if you guys want to grow your arms and have the most meatiest arms possible, this is the way to go. But I hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I know it probably was a little intense just based off my energy, but hopefully you guys do subscribe and like the video, because let's be honest, we all want bigger arms. So you guys have an amazing night. I appreciate you guys watching, and I just want to say thank you for just being a part. We've started to grow on YouTube, so I just want to say thank you for all the support. It really does mean the world. But yeah, hopefully you guys have an amazing night. But yeah, you guys take care.